Another close loss for the Detroit Tigers. You know what I'm going to say. You know what I'm going to say. It's a four-letter word. Let's say it together. RISP. If you said a different four-letter word, shame on you, but I don't blame you. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Thursday, September 14th, 2023. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's J-A-S-E medical.com. Alrighty, everybody. Well, Tigers lose another one-run game. This one by a score of 4-3. The hands of the Cincinnati Reds continue to just have a complete inability to win at home and hit with a runner in scoring position. It's been something that's been happening all year. It's been something that's been pissing me off all year. It's been something that we have vented our frustrations about all year. And this game was no different on all those fronts. I cannot wait to get to the season recap episodes in October and just absolutely scorch the earth with frustration about how bad this team is at home. Like, we've already done it a few times, but like, this is a 500 road team that just completely can't win at the stadium they play half of their games at. It's unbelievable to me. Well, actually, it's very believable. That's not the right word. It's ridiculous to me. It's not unbelievable. It's the most believable thing, actually. But frustrating no less. And the risk thing, we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth later. This was kind of a sloppy game all around, which is weird because, like, if you were not a Reds fan or a Tigers fan and you were watching this game, I don't think you would have left thinking, wow, one of those teams is definitely a playoff team, but the Reds are in the thick of the NL wildcard race. And I don't know if that's like a sign of optimism that these last two games, even though we are 0-2 against them, we haven't felt like completely overpowered and outmatched. That's like, oh, look, like this is a team that's in the NL wildcard race, and we don't completely feel like we're, significantly worse than them. We're barely losing these ball games. 1 extra innings and one run in 9 innings. Like that, I guess. I'm so tired of moral victories. I'm not trying to make it sound like that's the mindset I have. I'm just saying, big picture wise, like, I guess there's a part of me that's like, oh, look, like that's not bad. But in the same breath, the complete lack of that's just going to get me down the RISP rabbit hole again. Like the complete, like that is why they are better, is because they came through with every opportunity that was presented to them. And it wasn't very many. The Tigers had more hits, right? They had a lot of base runners. They had runners in scoring position all game. If you told me that they had a runner on second and or third every single inning in this game, I might believe you, right? So like it's that's like what separates it. Again, we out hit them. Like they didn't get a ton of more base runners. They didn't overpower us. They didn't hit a bunch of homers. Like they just took advantage of every opportunity presented to them, and that's what good baseball teams do. So I guess like kind of a backhanded compliment is really what that boils down to. Like, oh, like we didn't feel like we weren't that far away, but at the same time, there is a clear separator, and they need to address that this offseason. There was a lot of separators. Again, like the Reds were the better team tonight. They deserved to win. One of those was the defense, man. I thought this was a sloppy defensive game by your Detroit Tigers. I know that the defensive metrics are better, and they were really good early on in the season in like May. The Tigers were like a top 3 defense in baseball. That has slid ever since the end of May. And we've talked about it before. Like the Tigers don't have poor range. They don't have like Johnny Peralta's not playing all 9 positions, right? Like it's not that. It's not just like stagnant, poor footwork or poor, bad hands or the inability to go get balls. Like they have some guys with some range and like Andy Ibanez is weirdly like really good to his left at second base. Like he's fantastic at going towards first base. Like they have the ability to go get the ball, but my goodness, do they really piss me off defensively? Not like decision making's one thing. There's that's not really baked into defensive metrics. So like they make poor decisions all the time. Like all the time they make horrible decisions in the field. But even in this game, like Erod, it's his own fault because this is a defensive play on his behalf. But like fielding a bunt, I mean, why are we hesitating? Matt Vierling's right in front of you. I promise nobody's on third base. Like that was just a mistake on his. That was a very poorly played bunt on his part. But then in that same inning, there was like a slow chopper to McKinstry at short. And like he very, very much could have turned 2 on that. I firmly believe it. McKinstry's been a pretty solid defender at a lot of different positions, but like just didn't charge the ball enough and like wasn't able to go to second base first. Akil Baddoo in left field early in the game. There was a ball that I think a lot of left fielders can get in the air and he let it bounce. Like it's just a lot of small stuff that adds up. I think big picture, this isn't like an abomination defensively, but I mean, golly, if you can't just tighten up the small stuff, it's September. This team is 12, 13 games under 500. The viewership on the Detroit Tigers has plummeted because it's September and they're not going to make the playoffs. Like no one's watching these games, but golly, if it doesn't still piss me right off. And maybe that makes me the nerd and like it's my fault. It's my own fault. But gosh, you're in the major leagues and it's fundamental stuff, man. Like I hope that doesn't go unnoticed. Like the small stuff. I hope it doesn't go unnoticed in the offseason and when we're making decisions for who's on next year's roster. Because golly, it's infuriating. And they just do enough of the small stuff wrong to not completely tank their defensive numbers. But when you watch, you get frustrated. Eduardo Rodriguez did not have a fantastic start either. Certainly didn't do himself any favors with the defense behind him. 5 1/3, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 5 walks, and 5 strikeouts. 3.32 ERA on the season. Still having a phenomenal year. I almost have a hard time like getting super upset about it, like just because he has had such a good outing and he usually doesn't walk people, right? That I'm almost inclined to just be like, yeah, like this wasn't good. No one's going to convince you that it was good. We can all see that it wasn't good. So what else is there to really say? He's not going to go. This isn't a reoccurring issue. He's not going to go out there and walk people every time he's on the bump. He's walked 9 batters in his last 2 outings. That's incredibly out of character for him. So like if he does it for the rest of September, I guess maybe then maybe that becomes, but even then, like, I don't even know how much of a conversation that is. He's got 3 starts left, 4 starts left at most. Like, I don't know. Like, that's just not the pitcher he is. He's clearly off on command a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a long-term reassuring thing. That's really all I have to say about Erod. We can go a little bit more in depth after the break, but in a general terms, like it's kind of, I kind of just view it as an anomaly. Like, whatever. Hopefully his next start he doesn't do it. But clearly not a reoccurring thing, except for his last 2 outings. That's not a big enough sample size for me to get too worried about it. We'll go a little bit more in depth, talk about some of the pitchers that worked and didn't work. Then we'll get into the offense, which I know everyone is dying to talk about. But first, I got to tell y'all about our friends over at eBay Motors. If I can find it here. There we go. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy and is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you are looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebay.com/motors. That's eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, making us your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We'll be back tomorrow, recapping the series finale against the Cincinnati Reds. Okay, so the only other thing I really got to say with Erod is they showed a graphic on the broadcast as well. So shout out to Bally for getting some good numbers up there. About how much better his cutter had been this year than like every other year in his career, and specifically last season. And I feel like that's another thing where his last few starts, the cutter hasn't been as effective. And also in this outing, he was really a 3-pitch pitcher. I think at his best, he's kind of mixing in. It's always going to mostly be 4-seam cutter and changeup, but he only threw 1 sinker and 1 slider in this game. I think when he's at his best, he's probably throwing with 94 pitches, same kind of percentages. I think he's probably throwing 5 or 10 sinkers and then like 3 to 5 sliders. So, but if he's not feeling it, he's not feeling it. Again, like I have a really hard time getting too terribly upset. Like when most of the issues with this outing were walks, and that's like very clearly not something that is going to be super repeatable for Eduardo Rodriguez and the way he pitches. So it is what it is. It sucks. Maybe it'll make him cheaper in the offseason. Positive spin on it. Hey, why not? But let's move on to the offense, because that's really the meat and potatoes of this game. The Detroit Tigers, 3 runs. Let's save the RISP for a second. Okay, let's just talk pure things that went right and wrong offensively at the plate. Parker Meadows goes 0 for again. Still has not gotten a hit in forever. Had some hard hit balls though, and like got on base twice, drew a walk and got hit by a pitch. Like and like 1 strikeout, right? Like it's still, rookies have to go through this. This is just part of what really most rookies go through. I'm still not freaking out about it. Like again, until the K rate like absolutely just spikes and he just looks like he's getting overpowered at the plate, I'm not going to be too terribly worried. I do think it's important for him to go on a heater and like end the season on a high note. But I'm not, I don't know. Like clearly he needs to make an adjustment. I'm not making it sound like he's just been super unlucky and it's nothing. It's obviously something. But I think he will continue to make adjustments. I'm hoping that one of those ends up being beneficial for him. And I'm hoping that he can end the season on a high note. And we have 2.5 weeks to see if that can happen. So I'm not going to make any proclamations at this point in time, but clearly is something that he still does need to make some adjustments on. Akil Baddoo with a couple of hits, good for him. Carson Kelly, over. Miggy with a hit. Goodness. Tyler Nevin pinch hitting for Miguel Cabrera, always fun. Andy Ibanez, couple of hits, hit up the middle in this one, good for him. Really, the only thing that's noteworthy is like this lineup. There was another instance in which Parker Meadows got on base, right? And then he stole. And I was like, oh boy, like we got our fastest dude on the team on second base. This is exciting. The next 4 guys up, okay? And Baddoo, to his credit, hit him home. It's the one hit with runner in scoring position we had all game was Akil Baddoo. So tip of the cap, let's give Akil Baddoo his flowers. But like Carson Kelly was up. No. Right? 553 OPS this season. No, wasn't going to happen. Akil Baddoo, again, tip of the cap, good job, did hit him home. And then even if the lineup was to turn over, your 1 and 2 hitters in this game were Zach McKinstry and Matt Vierling, who went 0 for 6. They did have 4 walks between them. Good job. But went 0 for 6. And on the season, a week ago, neither of them had an OPS over 700. Matt Vierling had that 4-hit game, whenever that was, 7-10 days ago. Now has an OPS of 708. Still well below league average. Zach McKinstry's your leadoff hitter with a 661 OPS. So my point being, even when you have you're like, oh, like we got some runners in scoring position. I mean, if it's not Torkelson or Carpenter, or I guess maybe you can throw Andy Apaez in there. Like, you get my point. If it's not Tork or Carp, you're kind of just Miggy maybe. You're kind of just looking around. You're like, where is anyone going to hit a runner in? You know, I had somebody tweet at me and was like, is there something that like they're doing to make them so bad with RISP? And like at the end of the day, like my reply was like, I think at the end of the day, it's just talent, dog. You're like, we're wondering, oh, like why is this team so bad with RISP? Maybe because their 6 through 9 hitters have OPSs of 654, 586, 553, and 664. And then their 1 and 2 have 661 and 708. At the end of the day, it is what it is, man. Still a lot of holes in this lineup. A lot. And like we've done the RISP breakdown before. I guess before we just go full into RISP talk, Spencer Torkelson with another homer. He has 28. That is tied for the most by a Tigers hitter since 2017. The last 30 home run hitter for the Tigers was 2016. Miguel Cabrera and Justin Upton both had 30 homers in 2016. So he has 2 more to go the remainder of the season. He will join that list. He will be the first Tiger with 30 home runs since 2016. So hopefully he can get that. That'd be really cool. Went the opposite way. Good to see. He's had a few homers in the second half here that have gone the opposite way. I'd love to see that. Hopefully he can use the field a little bit more. I'm getting pretty optimistic about what he can be next year. 773 OPS now on the year with a walk in this game. 2 hits as well. Didn't do well with runners in scoring position, but has been better in September than he certainly was in August when he did not record a single hit in that situation. So let's go full RISP talk then before we move on to the bullpen, and then we'll end on a little bit of Jackson Jobe talk, which is exciting. Yeah, like we've done the player by player breakdown of the RISP thing before, right? Like Matt Vierling is one of the guys. Like if you were to ask, like what's different, like Matt Vierling is a case study for that. Like Matt Vierling has a 708 OPS on the season. We've talked about it before. He is abysmal with runners in scoring position. Batting average well below 200, OPS in the 500s. Like it's night and day. Like it is objectively and noticeably different. But like for a lot of these dudes, if you carried a lot of these batting averages and OPSs through, and you were just like, oh, they're going to be exactly the same, this team still wouldn't be very good with RISP. It all comes back down to just talent on roster, man. And here we are. They went 1 for 13 with RISP in this baseball game. 1 for 13. I also think that part of it is youth. Like you have players like, AJ said it in his post-game presser, like we got to put these guys in positions to in the position to come through in a clutch hit. They're never going to learn how to hit with RISP, but they're not put in the position. So like growing pains. People like Parker Meadows who didn't come through, Spencer Torkelson who don't come through, Riley Green before the injury had struggled a little bit with RISP before. Like those ones you look at and you can chalk it up somewhat to just growing pains, and it's like, oh, like hopefully they learn in this. But like the 4A dudes on this roster, the quadruple A utility players that are on this roster, man, like for those guys, you just shrug your shoulders and you go, it is what it is. This roster needs to be better. So a few different mindsets there. You can break it up in a few different categories, but at the end of the day, it just goes back to talent. And this offense, RISP or not, is still just one of the worst offenses in baseball in terms of just strictly scoring runs in any situation. Hopefully we address that this offseason. Let's talk about the bullpen. We'll do that right after I tell y'all about our friends over at Jace Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace Case. The Jace Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind so that you're not just hoping you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand, and it's simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacists, medication delivery, and ongoing consultant care. Don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's jasemedical.com, Jase medical.com, promo code LOCKEDON. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Hopefully I articulated what I was trying to say with the risk thing decently well. I think it's just a case-by-case basis. Everybody on the roster, it's a little bit different as to why they're struggling. Some people just are worse in those pressure situations. We see it with pitchers all the time, right? Relievers especially. Some people, you can chalk it up to growing pains, whether you believe it or not, is your own interpretation and evaluation of the situation. Wow, all those words ended with "un." But I think, and then some is just like, some is just, they are what they are. So let's talk about this bullpen in this ball game. Erod gives up the 4 runs. The Tigers then do not allow a run out of the bullpen. Miguel Diaz goes 2/3 of an inning of perfect baseball with a strikeout. I love him. He's awesome. And again, obviously the 0 ERA is not going to be maintained. He's going to give up runs at some point, but again, spring training, 0 ERA, major league career, 0 ERA. This dude clearly has something. And I have been telling people since March, this dude's changeup is freaking legit. And I wanted him to make the major league roster. You can go back to the March episodes, the spring training episodes. I wanted him to make the spring training roster so freaking badly. And they were like, oh, there's no room for him. Nothing we can really do. He didn't have a low ERA, but he wasn't giving up runs consistently, right? That's the same thing. People like to point at Gregory Soto in Philly, and they're like, oh, look, his ERA is not very good. Gregory Soto will blow up and give up runs, but he also has a lot of consecutive outings with zeros. And I don't, people get pissed off whenever you even say his name. He's like the boogeyman. I'm not trying to go down a different rabbit hole there, but Miguel Diaz has legitimate swing and miss and out getting stuff. And that changeup, splitter, whatever the heck you want to call it, is filthy. It is disgusting. I think he can be a legitimate major league pitcher. And he's sneaky old. He's not a young buck. He's not going to be in this bullpen for the next 6 years. But I think that this guy can find a job next year if he can prove that his fastball at the major league level can be even a net 0 pitch. Doesn't even have to be nasty or some elite level fastball. It sits at about 93 miles an hour pretty consistently. Got up to 95 in this game. If he can just have it be a somewhat of a net 0 heater, that, his slider can do decent things as well. I think that changeup can go a long way if he can set it up well with that heater. So, and he has a sinker. If he's not getting swings and misses, he goes to the sinker, can get a ground ball. I really like the weapons he has. I've been a big fan of him for this entire calendar year, and I'm really happy for him and glad that he's able to showcase it in the majors. We'll see what happens to him this offseason. Certainly not a guarantee to make it through the winter, but I like what I see. The big storyline out of the bullpen in this game, though, is obviously Alex Faedo, who goes 3 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. This is what we have been waiting for. This is exactly what we have been waiting for. Exactly. Oh, my goodness. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For years, we've been talking about Alex Faedo could be a really good reliever. All of this season, and when he started, every single post game, I have to come on here and be like, his stuff is good. I promise it can play. Unfortunately, he stinks second time through the lineup. And then just by trait has barely even made it third time through the lineup because he gets rocked second time through. And if he can just face everybody once, he has good enough stuff where he can be a legitimate threat in the bullpen. Do you have any idea how valuable Alex Faedo is about to be on the 2024 Detroit Tigers? I cannot freaking wait. I've almost cursed a lot in this episode. My in-brain sensor is working overtime, man. Exhausting. But for real, this is a dude who I think can be unbelievably valuable to this baseball team next year. just being an absolute workhorse out of the bullpen. Good numbers, facing everybody once, can go in this game, again, even 3 innings and keep a game close. He can save your bullpen, and it's not just in mop-up duty. I really, truly believe, and have for like 5 years now, in Alex Faedo, the long reliever. And I'm so pumped that he's finally just like being put in that role, and we're done screwing around, and like we're just going to let him be what he is actually best at, hopefully next season as well. Good for Alex Faedo, man. Happy for him. That's pretty much it for this ball game. The Tigers, everybody, a lot of people were complaining like, oh, the Tigers suck in close games. They're over 500 this season, even after this loss, in one-run ball games, and they're over 500 on the season in extra inning games. They've actually, again, and that's, I think, a testament to AJ. They've played pretty darn well in close games this year. And this one just didn't go their way. And they had a million opportunities to, and just fell on their face. 12 times. They went 1 for 13 with RISP and left 13 runners on base. That's remarkably bad. So they had every opportunity to not lose this game. And this was just one of those games where they were, you want to call it snake bitten. You want to call it just no clutch gene. Whatever you want to say, just didn't have it in this one. Let's end the show by talking about Jackson Jobe, and then we'll preview the finale here in the pitching matchup. Jackson Jobe called up to Double-A earlier this week. Haven't had time to talk about it. Actually, I wanted to talk about it yesterday and just flat out forgot. But remember today. So Jackson Jobe promoted to Double-A. He hasn't allowed a walk in his last 4 starts in high Single-A. He's walked a single-digit amount of batters the entire season in high Single-A. He's been remarkable. And like he's, there's so many pitchers you can point to. Man, like he has movement on his fastball now. It's a little bit of cut action on that heater. He can still throw it like straight, I guess, if he wants to, but there's a lot of spin on it. And oh my goodness, the slider is as advertised. It's disgusting. And his changeup, his circle change is filth, man. He throws it arm side to lefties. I don't know how that's even possible to hit. Right? He throws it arm side to lefties, so low and away to left-handed hitters. And guys think that it's a fastball up in the zone, and next thing you know, it just falls off the table low and away. It's not only a ball low, it's also a ball way outside, and you just look like a complete fool swinging at it. Like I said, the slider's obviously the big advertised pitch his entire professional career and even high school career. That's one of the reasons cited as to why we drafted him. I'm really happy for him. I'm really glad, Raj over at Tigers Minor League Report said like he thinks that if he was healthy this year and didn't have the back injury, this dude probably would have been in Double-A or even Triple-A at the end of this season, like right now. And he's in Double-A now. The Erie Seawolves are in a playoff push and then the playoffs. So that's super cool. He'll be getting some work, hopefully in some postseason games. He's set to start. Like I'm so excited for him. And Double-A is when you start, like you're on the radar for the major league team, man. Like next season, he's going to start probably in Double-A with, if he starts off hot, there's nothing that says he's not in Triple-A in the first half of next year, which means we could be having like, when does Jackson Jobe get called up to the majors conversations in 2024, which is effing awesome. You can hate the pick for the rest of your life. It doesn't change how talented this dude is, man. It really doesn't. I understand. I get it. Meyer's really good. I follow the game. I know. I'm very aware. But like both can be true. You can hate the pick and realize that this dude is uber talented and has intangibles that major league players, the spinniest of major league pitchers, don't spin it like this kid does, man. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for him. I'm happy to see what he can do in Double-A the rest of this year and next season. I think his development this year is unbelievably impressive. The only knock on him really this season has been he's given up a lot of homers, but he doesn't give up base runners. And the reason that he's given up homers, this is a point that's been pointed out by a couple of people. Matthew Scheitel, great follow, great dude, by the way, has pointed this out as well. Like when you're not walking people, and you're 21 years old in the minor leagues and you're just like taught to fill the strike zone, you're going to give up some homers. And to add to that point, when your best pitch is a breaking ball and you only throw strikes, you're going to have to go through the growing pains of giving up some homers. He'll work through them. He'll make adjustments. But like, this dude does not walk anyone. He strikes out everyone, and he does not give up base runners. He has been a complete and utter objective success story this season. And I could not be happier for the organization and for him. Look, I'm not saying this is objectively true. Everyone is going to have their own opinion on it. But there is a legitimate argument that this is the pitcher with the highest ceiling in this entire organization. And he's had a great year. That's reason to celebrate. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Shout out to the Everydayers. We will be back tomorrow recapping the series finale against the Cincinnati Reds. It's a day game, 1:10 Eastern in Comerica Park. Reese Olson going for the Detroit Tigers. We'll see how he looks going up against Derek Law. Man, Derek Law, 33 years old, still spinning it, man. Good for him. Derek Law will get the start on Thursday. So we'll see. Try to salvage a game. Like the weird part is you could win today's ball game. You could win Thursday's ball game by 3 runs and lose the series, but outscore the Reds in the series, right? Like it's been so close. So you're not going to walk away with a series victory. That sucks. But I think you've played a playoff caliber team pretty well, all things considered. If September is truly for development, then you gotta take it for what it is. All right. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.